Hello and welcome to the Ryoho Wellness podcast. This is Margit Jefferson and I am here with Andrei Gospodarczyk, the founder of Ryoho. The vision behind Ryoho Wellness is to create a tipping point in wellness worldwide. And this podcast will contribute towards that. In each episode, we explore different health issues that present as case studies in Andrei's practice. They range from small, easily managed ailments to serious and complex illnesses. We explore body parts and how they respond to nutrition and environment, and we work on inspiring people to change their life for good through an everyday wellness focus. Ryoho is a wellness modality that is unique because it focuses on healing and wellness through basic food and exercises that maneuver the body back to a state of balanced health. People literally jump out of their skin with energy and vitality when they follow Ryoho. And it's an incredible turnaround for many who have had low energy for years through to people who have had complex health issues that don't seem to budge. The podcast is an interview format and ranges from 20 to 60 minutes. And if you'd like more of an introduction on Andrei, please see the 3-minute introduction in the first podcast on the homepage. And at the end, I'll be here to give you a little bit more information. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. So Andrei, a few weeks ago, you talked about something which I thought was an absolute gem. Changing a habit is not necessarily the answer. You said what is important is changing the environment, because changing a habit or focusing on changing a habit almost always doesn't work, because people revert back in 6 months or 12 months or 3 months or 2 years. They'll revert back to drinking alcohol or eating chocolate or smoking a cigarette or whatever. And that was an absolute gem, because people struggle with change enormously.
Yeah, so it's based on the idea, like we were saying, in many different ways. Like when you have alcohol, that's one of the best examples, that it's actually making you feel better. And so it's good to change the reason that you're attracted to something that is actually harming you, and your body rejects enormously. Your liver is going to fight alcohol desperately. Your body hates it, but we love it because on one hand it's solving a problem, and it's important to get rid of that problem. So the way we deal with people who have alcohol problems is take all their animal products away. And that's kind of changing the environment. So another example is, instead of not eating as much food to lose weight and trying to fight your natural body cravings of, I want to eat more and can't stop eating huge amounts of food, is to change the sort of foods you're eating and realize that you're actually very hungry. And so we need deeply nurturing foods. So in other words, well-cooked whole foods rather than empty foods that are robbing you of nutrition and making you very hungry. So yeah, that sort of idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So you're saying don't fight the habit. So someone who gets up in the morning and beats themselves up because last night they had glasses of wine or gin and tonics or beers or whatever, and they get up in the morning and say, right, today I'm going to start and I'm determined, but then by 4 or 5 o'clock they say, oh, it's such a nice day, or I'm out with my friends, or stuff it, I'm going to do it anyway. So
that's an intellectual excuse that's justifying their craving. That's all. It's a nice day, or I've had a little bit, might as well have more, or one little bit won't hurt. And then you have that, and then you go, oh, gee, I've already had some, might as well have more. All those dialogues are justifications, yeah.
So they're fighting their self-discipline. They're saying, I'm not disciplined enough to stop this. I'm trying to change this habit. Whereas you're saying what they need to do is to look for why they're actually doing it and focus on that.
Yeah, so the wellness lecture, a lot of it is about understanding how the body works. And if you understand how it works, then you can take one step in the right direction and things unravel a little bit, and then you can make another step. But its understanding is extremely important. Like when I was very young, I went to a shiatsu therapist in Japan, and she said, don't drink coffee, not so much coffee, or you shouldn't drink as much coffee, some line like that. And that allowed me an excuse to keep drinking coffee. But what she should have said was, don't drink coffee. And it would have solved a lot of problems for me for a long time, because giving up the coffee would have been easy. But trying to calm down is very hard. Do you see? Yeah. And trying to fight a myriad levels of agitation and stress and brain fogginess and going to bed late and all a myriad of habits, or what you'd call habits, but they're actually reactions to a problem. But people say a bad habit is eating late at night. No, it's not a bad habit. It's you're very stressed and you need to calm down, and the food is actually calming you down. It's making you tired and fulfilling a need, so then you can relax and then you can sleep. So a lot of what people say are bad habits are actually just stress reactions or nutritional needs or reactions to a very severe problem. And the alcohol, for example, is something that makes you actually feel better, and you need it, because no one can live with that amount of stress that meat creates in a civilized environment. It just makes you so tense. Yeah, so those sort of ideas is what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about there. In other words, what I'm saying is you have to have a good understanding of how the body works. In a civilized society, we need the intellect to be involved in the process. We're not living in a natural world anymore, and we create our environment. So we need to have enough understanding of how the body works to be able to create an environment that is healthy for the body. So we're creating our environment, so we're responsible for 90% of our problems. The World Health Organization says that 87% or somewhere around there, 85% of all health problems are manageable. We create them, that they're preventable. They've done their research. They know what they're talking about. World Health Organization don't have any ulterior motives. They're not sponsored by petrochemical companies, and which is why their suggestions usually go unnoticed. Like the climate is killing us and meat is killing us and all the rest of it. So I hope that's an answer.
That does really help my understanding. Back to your little coffee example. So you said it would have been really easy if she'd just said stop drinking coffee. That implies that you had the self-discipline to take that on board and just stop it. Whereas you're actually saying outside of that, you people need to focus on the reason they're drinking coffee, which is that they're highly agitated or they need that adrenaline burst to keep them going or whatever.
Yeah, no, well, I was using that example because, in fact, like meat, it was creating a lot of problems for people where they need. So I'm saying coffee was creating a lot of problems for me where there was 10 different reactions that I had to coffee, and fighting any one of them was impossible. So what I would do was meditate to calm down, and that kind of worked. And what I was doing was yoga to keep steady and calm, and trying to eat good food to stay focused. But in fact, it was just coffee that I needed to give up rather than do all those things.
So it was a diagnostic thing that you just didn't know.
And because she gave me a way out, like if I say to someone, eat less meat, then their bad habits, like their craving for alcohol, is not going to stop. It's just going to abate. And so they're still fighting themselves with alcohol. They say, it didn't work. I'm drinking less, but I'm still drinking. And occasionally I have binges. But if they actually stop, like Master Oki used to say, when you give up cigarettes, have you really given up? Does that mean that you've thrown the ashtrays away also? So is there a definite stop there? Have you turned around and walked the other way? Have you actually decided that your life will be different now? And if we can find the cause of the problems, which is, in my case, when I was young, coffee, for people who drink lots of alcohol, eating foods that are making their, in medical terms, liver too hot, people who are overweight eating empty nutrition foods that is making them eat too much and storing fat in their body. So, yeah, it all depends on what the problem is. We actually have to have enough understanding of how our bodies work and our environment that we're creating around us. It's like Western medicine is giving us supplements and vitamin pills and potions and powders as an alternative to organic healthy food. So the dialogue is, from naturopaths and nutritionists and the people that are looking after us to say, oh, well, food is pretty empty now, so a lot of the foods that you're eating are lacking in minerals and lacking in so-and-so vitamins and B vitamins and all the rest of it. It's only because they're not good foods. They're not organic. They're grown hydroponically. They're grown with chemicals. They're coated in pesticides. And so then they're saying, well, you have to take these other things. But they're not actually, these pills and potions doesn't fix the problem. It's just creating a stress. It's not really the answer to the problem. The real answer to the problem is to have good quality food, because the few things that we can pick up on, the reactions to bad food, are only going to be a few of the things. There's more subtle things happening. So they're not an answer. Fighting symptoms and fighting bad habits just creates more stress a lot of the time. So now we have to eat pills and potions that are covered in plastic or powders that create another reaction somewhere else and create a deficiency on some level, or stop your body from being able to manufacture its own B vitamins and enzymes and metabolizing proteins and all the rest of it. So we need to know the cause of the problem. We need to know the environment we're living in and the problems that we're creating for ourselves. We can offset some of those problems just on a little level by having some understanding. But those steps, those little steps of improvement, like eating healthier and not eating processed foods, is a good step. But in the end, we need to live a lifestyle that is supportive of human beings rather than having to fight all these bad reactions that having to our environment. Like in America now, what they're doing is building buildings that are not wrapped up in electrical wires. There's been $1 million lawsuits based on the fact that people are having environmental diseases because their buildings that they are living in are so toxic, not just because of the electricity, but because of the air and all the rest of it. And they've proven that it's bad for them. And for a long time, they've been buying machines that ionize the air. They've been trying to have more minerals in their diet. They've been trying to enliven themselves a little bit by doing more exercise, but in fact it was the buildings that was the problem, and that's what they found in the end. So it was the buildings that they needed to fix, which they are now. They're building buildings without enormous amounts of electrical cables running around every single wall, so that you're living inside a magnet basically that is destroying people.
That really clarifies it. I think it's so powerful to understand that it's not about forcing the change of habit. It's really about building a very supportive environment so that you naturally turn towards the goodness that you need in your life.
We're not stupid. Human beings are not stupid. We follow comfort, and that's why I tried to put in that wellness breakdown that human beings are not stupid, that they crave comfort and they naturally know what suits them. And we're doing a lot of things that are harming ourselves. In our society, we're doing a huge amount of harm, things like pesticides and things like eating processed foods and working too hard. But if we find the things that support us, we will gravitate towards them. One of the examples is if we eat white sugar, it makes our blood sugar go up. Then our blood sugar goes down again, and then we seek comfort and have more sugar. But unfortunately, the reaction is that the blood sugar goes too high again and then collapses again. The body can't deal with it. But the body's reaction, your reaction as a human being, is the right one. You know that sugar is going to make you feel better, and we seek that comfort. We have to have that support. Our natural reaction is to eat more sugar, and it's the right reaction. But we need to have a human understanding and not follow that animal response, and know that if I don't eat white sugar, in the end, after a week, maybe my blood sugars will stabilize if I'm eating more complex carbohydrate, and give ourselves a couple of days of not following the animal instinct and using that environmental understanding of the human being, and know how the body works and know how the environment works, and know that white sugar is creating its own craving. That's one of the things that are causing our problems with the blood sugar and solving it by understanding that having complex carbohydrate in the long term will solve the problem, and the short term is not a good idea. It's like finding real love. You stop looking at other women. You've solved your problem. It's like having a good job. Money becomes irrelevant. You don't want to earn enormous amounts of money anymore because you're dissatisfied. If you find the thing you love doing, money becomes secondary. It's not relevant anymore. Finding real satisfaction is important. And we will always gravitate towards that, finding real satisfaction and comfort. And it's a normal reaction, but we have to use the human part to understand how the body works, how our environment works, and our relationship and reaction to environmental stimuli. So, there's simple examples throughout all medical issues that are very easy to figure out, but reacting to a symptom is not a good idea if it's going to cause more problems. But a lot of the time we don't know that.
Yeah, that's really, really fascinating. Well, there are three things that you said in there that jumped out to me. One was that American example. We had a very real local example here in well, I think it was Sydney, where one of the major radio stations or television stations, they had a cluster of women who presented with breast cancer. And so I think there were 4 or 5 or maybe even more women. And eventually I think they closed that studio down. And that's a very good example of that environmental thing concept that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's just a little one. Another one, a really good one, is people living under high tensile, high gain, very powerful electrical cables. In the country, people used to have houses underneath these massive electrical cables that they string across valleys, and they found that everyone got cancer. You know, and they were treating the cancer, but it was the cables. You know, I mean, Erin Brockovich, good examples. You know, they were saying, oh, well, you know, bad luck, your child had leukemia, bad luck, you know, your grandmother died. No, it was the poison in the water was the cause of the problem. And those are simple examples. And a lot of the problems we have in modern society, the Aboriginal males, the highest suicide rate of any human being in any culture in the world. And the causes of that are important, not just to tell people or lock them up or medicate them or give them more money or talk to them. No, it's finding what's really causing that environment that is making that sort of thing happen in a whole culture. It's important to figure out what that is. And we don't know, you know. I mean, we know, but we don't know. And so finding out the cause of these problems is important, and understanding human beings, looking at traditional medical systems, looking deeper with Western medical systems, and having a more open mind and realizing that fighting yourself just creates more stress. It's just what we're doing now in our society. Everyone's fighting to try to stay okay, and having things like lots of caffeine drinks is just creating that fight. You know, I'm tired. I mean, what's the cause of the tiredness? It's not the fact of not having enough coffee.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, that if I look around in my little community, and I'm sure that this is relevant to every person's little community, there's people who perhaps drink too much alcohol, perhaps drink too much Coke or Diet Coke, or they're addicted to chocolate, they're addicted to coffee, they're addicted to cigarettes, not necessarily all at once. I'm saying individual people have these alignments to junk food or juice or sugar or even fruit. They have these addictions, and it's interesting that I don't think that a lot of people really understand that there is an offset again that can potentially help them to take those few small valuable steps away from that and return them to balance. And you talked about one being meat and alcohol. So that I thought that was really interesting. And I also think that ultimately what you're saying is that, yes, we might be opening a can of worms by identifying just one small thing, but if it can be combined with a true wellness formula combining mind, body and spirit, then there's going to be significant ground and steps made towards re-establishing really good health for many years to come.
And it's, if we do it as individuals, I mean, the big companies will be upset because they really like the fact that you're using their products. But as we've all seen in just the last few years, that people are very keen on drinking clean water. And so Coca-Cola Amatil now owns all the bottled water, just about. Every brand out there of water is actually bottled by Coca-Cola because they will sell you what you buy. And so they'll fight a little bit to preserve your custom, but on the other hand, they will adapt very quickly and sell you what you're buying. And so if you start buying organic food and healthy food, very quickly they'll adapt to that and start providing that in the marketplace. If you stop buying these things on an individual level, you don't have to ask the big companies to make changes. You don't have to insist that the government make changes. You just start making those changes as an individual. Why? Because you understand and know that making little steps on a comfortable level where things feel a little bit better based on understanding, and know that it's in the long run going to get rid of a lot of cravings, a lot of bad habits, and simple ideas.
Those people who are drinking a Coke a day and eating chocolate every day and all that sort of stuff, they're very unconscious about that concept of changing the environment and building a supportive environment in order to achieve good health. They think it's all about habit and New Year's resolutions, really.
Sure. Well, everyone knows that there are positive steps you can make in your life, and the global idea is that it's all too big to do at once. Now, when I see clients, I know that there is a key, and everyone will discover those simple keys if they just look at themselves. So I know if someone's eating too much fruit, by their body shape, they're too round and watery, and they have a diarrhea all the time, or their bowel function is too weak and their mineral levels are low, so they have a pale mouth. Anyway, there are a lot of different signs. And I will point out to them that they need to stop eating fruit. And they go, oh, my God, that's my favorite thing. In other words, that's like a bad habit for them. They're in a cycle, a pattern. They're stuck. And now I would like them to stop eating all fruit. I would like them to do a lot of exercise, which reverses the effects of fruit. Fruit is a very strong laxative and an expansive food that makes you relax and tired and drains your mineral levels and all the rest of it. And so moving a lot neutralizes that. But people can't do that. They can't do a lot of exercise because they're too tired and they're full of fruit and they can't stop eating the fruit. So what we do is go step by step, one little step at a time. So I'd love them to do 30 push-ups in the morning, but what I give them is 2 push-ups, and I get them to go for a walk, and they can manage that just gently. And even maybe that is too much, and all we can do is add a little bit of sea salt into the diet to make some balance for all the fructose, and ask them to have cooked fruit for a couple of weeks. And then the change happens where they actually feel so much better that they can take the next step and they have a positive result. So the pleasure thing kicks in, which is like, I feel better from having cooked fruit and made with a little tiny bit of sea salt, not so much tropical fruit, and I've done a walk around the block. And so I've gotten pleasure from that. And the only pleasure I used to have before was from eating fruit. Now I'm getting pleasure from not eating fruit, a different kind of pleasure, which is more energy, a little bit more mental clarity, and I'm feeling like I stand up a little bit straighter. And so we've got a new reference point, and that's the secret. Rather than doing everything at once, and so we know, okay, the environment's no good in the city, I'm living in a house surrounded with wires, my air is toxic, my food is toxic, all I can do to get through the day and pay the mortgage is to drink 4 cups of coffee a day. I know it's killing me, but what do I do? Because all of it is too much at once. So knowing that one step is going to make a huge impact on all of it is the right way to think, and that having a little change in your diet, of adding good quality organic food, is a very powerful thing. And maybe just adding one meal a day, like brown rice to your lunch, will be a wonderful first step. And even though we think, well, I'm drinking 4 cups of coffee, I'm working too hard, I've got a big mortgage, stress, I'm living in a bad environment, what people don't understand is adding that brown rice to the diet, that it actually makes a big step, and it gives them person a little impact of pleasure that then allows them to make another step. And within a year, everything is different. Suddenly they realize that they don't need to keep living in the city, whatever. There's massive changes happen.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, make one little step and suddenly you can, I'm living like a complete weirdo now. All the things I used to love when I eat now make me sick. And it's a total, and people say, how can you live that way? And you look at them and you say, how can you live that way? 2 years ago you were thinking, there's no way can I possibly live like a complete psycho hippie. I don't want even those things anymore. And I look at them and go, oh, my God, that's disgusting. And forgetting that 3 years ago I would have eaten 6 of them. Yeah, so your mind, your body changes, because what gave you pleasure before doesn't give you pleasure anymore, because your references have changed enormously. And that's the goals of healing. And through understanding, and all I've done is explain things to people, and then they go, oh, well, that makes sense. And it does. And it's true science where it actually makes sense, and then you act upon it and get a result, and then you can trust your own experience and go further. I just want to empower people, give them freedom to make choices rather than have them locked into an addictive cycle where people are profiting off that and destroying the world, and it's got to change.
So hopefully now you know a little bit more about why it is so difficult to change a habit, no matter how much focus and persistence you apply to it. And hopefully you understand that it's as much about changing your environment to support the changes in your lifestyle that you are looking for. Any listeners who would like to learn more about Andre's work or Ryoho can connect and follow on Instagram and LinkedIn using the address of Ryoho Wellness. We spell Ryoho Ryoho and then add wellness on the end, obviously. Episode notes will be loaded up and available at ryohowellness.com, which is the master website. And just a few more things before you take off. Number 1, do you have a health issue or question you would like explored in one of our podcasts? Please submit it to us at the website where there is a contact page, ryohowellness.com website. Number 2, would you enjoy being notified by very short email every time we do something on Ryoho Wellness? This includes notification of our up-and-coming wellness podcasts and other things towards our tipping point. If you want to receive that, go to ryohowellness.com and drop in your email address and you'll get the very next one. And we hope you really enjoy it. Thanks everyone for listening, and thank you, Andre, for another fantastic episode. See you next time.